Chapter 1. The Crucible of Division, 395 to 476. In 395 CE, Emperor Theodosius I dies, dividing the Roman Empire between his sons, Arcadius in the east and Honorius in the west. Historically, this division weakens the Western Empire, leading to its collapse in 476. But in this alternate timeline, the Roman elites recognize the growing danger of fragmentation. A powerful general named Flavius Stilicho, historically a regent to Honorius, takes decisive action. He orchestrates a reunification of the Eastern and Western empires under a single imperial administration. Stilicho negotiates a power-sharing agreement between the Eastern and Western courts, introducing a dual consul model. One emperor governs from Constantinople, the other from Ravenna, but both rule jointly, alternating supreme command every 5 years. The Roman military reforms rapidly. The empire incorporates barbarian federati more effectively into the army, offering land and citizenship not just as rewards, but as long-term integration strategies. Germanic tribes like the Visigoths and Ostrogoths are not treated as enemies, but as semi-autonomous border lords, akin to the later medieval marcher lords. Alaric's invasions are stalled. Rome is sacked in 410 CE. But in this timeline, the empire recovers quickly. A massive rebuilding campaign funded by North African grain revenues and Eastern gold rekindles civic pride. Christianity continues to rise, but classical Roman administration and pagan culture remain woven into imperial identity. Latin remains dominant. By 476, there is no deposition of the Western emperor. Instead, the empire stands united, restructured, and vigilant. Chapter 2. The Age of Integration, 500 to 800. The early medieval period unfolds differently. Rather than collapse into feudal kingdoms, Europe remains under centralized Roman control, albeit with growing regional autonomy. The Roman bureaucracy evolves to handle vast distances and diverse populations. A proto-federal model emerges, dividing the empire into 6 administrative prefectures: Italia, Gallia, Hispania, Africa, Orientalis, East, and Britannia, rather than abandon Britain. The empire reinforces it. Roman legions are rotated in and out of Britannia. Latinization deepens. Celtic and Saxon influences are absorbed. Londinium grows into a major imperial port. The spread of Islam in the 7th century meets a different fate. The Roman Empire, having reformed its military logistics and maintaining strong frontier forces in Syria and Egypt, halts Arab expansion at the gates of Damascus in 636. Muhammad's death still catalyzes the creation of a religious empire, but Islam remains confined to Arabia and parts of Mesopotamia. The Eastern Roman world, including Constantinople, remains Orthodox Christian, while the Western prefectures maintain their Latin Roman Catholic identity. A gradual religious federalism emerges. Doctrinal differences are tolerated under the Pax Romana to prevent civil war. The Carolingian Empire never rises. Charlemagne remains a minor regional noble under Roman oversight. The papacy, though influential, never declares its independence from imperial rule. There is no Holy Roman Empire, because the Roman Empire never ceases to exist. Chapter 3. Renaissance without the Dark, 800 to 1200. Without a European Dark Age, scientific and cultural development accelerates. Roman engineers, building on classical knowledge, begin experimenting with water power machinery, early optics, and advanced metallurgy. Greek texts are never lost. They are copied, improved upon, and expanded. Roman universities are founded as early as the 9th century. The empire promotes education across provinces, including standardized grammar schools in major cities. Arabic scholars still make advances in mathematics and astronomy, but now through peaceful competition and scholarly exchange rather than separated civilizations. By the 1000s, the empire's road and aqueduct systems have been fully modernized. Imperial trade spans from Britannia to the Indian Ocean. Naval bases the African and Mediterranean coasts. The imperial navy, based in Carthage and Alexandria, protects trade routes from piracy and emerging nomadic threats from the steppe. Gunpowder is introduced to the Romans by Chinese envoys in the 11th century. The empire rapidly develops primitive firearms, primarily for defense of fortresses in the east. Mongol expansion is slowed when Roman-Cuman alliances form a bulwark in Eastern Europe. The Roman calendar is modified to better align with solar tracking. The concept of Anno Imperii, Year of the Empire, replaces Anno Domini. By 1200, the Roman Empire is still one, uneven in wealth, complex in governance, but intact and advancing. Chapter 4. Industrialization of the Empire, 1200 to 1600. The Renaissance in this world arrives earlier and spreads faster. It's not a rebirth, it's a continuation. Roman scholars Mediolanum Milan, Massilia, Marseille, and Alexandria pioneer linear perspective, experimental science, and systematic inquiry by the 1200s. Printing presses appear a century early, accelerating literacy and political discourse. Latin remains a formal language of governance, but regional dialects evolve into standardized vernaculars. The empire begins industrializing in the 1400s, drawing on centuries of accumulated engineering and global trade. Water-powered looms, coal furnaces, and mechanical clocks become common in major prefectures. When the Americas are discovered in the early 1400s by Roman sailors from Hispania, colonization is managed through the Imperial Senate's Overseas Affairs Commission. There is no Treaty of Tordesillas, no Spanish or Portuguese empires, just Roman colonial prefectures, Nova Roma in the Caribbean, Imperia Occidens, Western Empire, in Brazil, and Novi Gallia in North America. Colonial exploitation occurs, but is more regulated under Roman law. Indigenous peoples are subjugated, but also integrated over generations into client states with senatorial representation. The Reformation never erupts violently. Religious dissent is absorbed into a broader imperial syncretism doctrine. Protestant-like ideas spread, but reform occurs within the imperial church through debate, not war. By 1600, the Roman Empire has global colonies, steam-powered machinery, and a population approaching 200 million. Chapter 5. The Age of Global Domination, 1600 to 1900. In this timeline, the Roman Empire is the world's only superpower for nearly 200 years. Steam engines, early railroads, and mechanical production are developed by 1650. Rome's Industrial Revolution begins before the Enlightenment even reaches its peak. Scientific academies in Alexandria, Londinium, and Carthago fund inventions, telescopes, and anatomical research. The empire reaches into the Indian subcontinent through trade alliances. Instead of the British East India Company, there is the Imperial India Trade Legation, a Roman corporate state with military and commercial branches, gradually subjugating the Indian subcontinent under imperial economic control. By the 18th century, slavery, once institutional, is abolished in 1725 after decades of debate in the Imperial Senate. Enslaved peoples from Africa are gradually freed and resettled in colonies. In their place, a system of contract labor emerges, still exploitive, but less brutal. By 1800, the Roman Empire has steamships, centralized banks, telegraph systems, and functioning republic-style institutions under the emperor. Its only rival is the Sinic Empire, China, which begins modernizing in response to Roman pressure. There are no Napoleonic Wars, no American Revolution, no world wars. History unfolds not in nationalistic convulsions, but through gradual expansion and reform. Chapter 6. The Roman Century, 1900 to 2025. The 20th century is the imperial century. Electricity spreads across the provinces in the early 1900s. Automobiles, flight, and radio emerged by 1915. Instead of national governments developing these technologies, it is state-funded imperial academies that drive innovation. By 1930, the Roman Empire launches the first satellites using long-range ballistic platforms. A global satellite network, called Ethernet, forms the basis of an early internet in the 1980s. Latin remains a unifying official language, but multilingualism is standard in most provinces. There are provincial independence movements, especially in Africa and the Americas, but they seek senatorial status rather than full secession. A rotating consular council of provincial governors ensures shared power. The emperor is now a ceremonial figure. Real power rests with the Curia Imperialis, an elected technocratic body. Religion is diverse. The empire is officially secular. Christianity, in many forms, Mithraism, Judaism, Islam, and other faiths coexist under a common legal code that enforces religious tolerance and civic unity. In 2025, the Roman Empire is a post-industrial superstate of 1.4 billion people. Its capital is no longer just Rome, but a trio of federal cities, Rome, Alexandria, and Londinium. The world is not perfect. Inequality persists. Outer provinces complain of central oversight. Environmental degradation is a major issue, but war is rare. Civilizational collapse never occurred. And the dream of Rome, law, roads, unity, citizenship, endures. It never fell.